Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of This Week in BJJ. I'm Budo Jake, and today is May 20th, 2015. We're only a week away from the Worlds, so that's what's on everybody's minds. Everybody's training hard, getting ready for it. We'll have some exciting interviews coming up with some of the guys that are in town. But for today, let's talk about the Worlds. If you are not watching at the event in Long Beach at the Pyramid, you can always watch from home. Just go to TWIBJJ.com. We'll be doing a live broadcast of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Lots of exciting things to show each day. And while most people watch the finals on Sunday, Saturday is where there is the Black Belt Absolute Division, so there's tons of good matches taking place on Saturday. And you know, a lot of people like to watch the lower belts as well. There's a lot you can learn from watching the blue belts and purple belts and see some of these up-and-comers, some of the guys that are going to be on the tips of our tongues, you know, a few years from now. So there's a lot you can learn. As long as you can watch 4 days straight of jiu-jitsu, I'm sure you'll enjoy it a lot and learn a lot as well. Again, TWIBJJ.com is where you can go to watch all 4 days. Now, another piece of news that just came out yesterday was Guilherme Mendes announced at the young age of 26 that he's retiring from competition. He says, "It's a new chapter in my life, and to achieve my goals, I'll put the same effort that I've put to become the athlete that I am today. I want to lead my team, become the best I can be as a leader and a professor, work to create the best athletes in the sport, keep innovating the art, and build a team of champions that people have never seen before." So, Guilherme is a very talented competitor and a great teacher. We wish him the best of luck in his sole endeavor of teaching from now on. You know, one other thing I want to mention about the Worlds, getting back to the Worlds, people are always asking us, when can I get a shoyu roll gi? Where can I get a shoyu roll gi? Well, there might be a shoyu roll booth at the Worlds this year, so just letting you know. Saturday and Sunday, go upstairs to the booth section, check out the shoyu roll booth. You might see some really cool stuff. Speaking of cool stuff, let's talk about some new products. First up is the Roy Dean collection. You guys have seen Roy Dean on the show before. You know he's a very talented instructor, has very smooth jiu-jitsu, and he has put out a lot of really good instructionals, including his blue belt requirements, his purple belt requirements, brown belt, black belt, the art of the wrist lock. Now you can get all of them in one big collection. And he's also including a pressure passing seminar by Roy Harris. It's basically everything Roy Dean has put out, including some bonus footage. You can get it all on BudoVideos.com for one low price. So it's a great way to have some great content in your collection. Also coming up is the Bernardo Faria Z-Guard DVD set. This is coming out on Friday, so if you're going to pre-order, you got 2 more days to do it if you're watching this on May 20th. You'll save $10 if you pre-order. Otherwise, it'll be regular price, $69 after that. But Bernardo Faria, his previous set was on his half guard, mostly deep half guard, and had a lot of really good techniques in there. So I think you're going to enjoy his Z-Guard techniques as well. And before I talk about the interview today, I want to remind you one last thing. CustomBJJPatch.com. That's our sister business where we do custom patches. We do sublimated patches that you can sew onto your gi, or even vinyl patches that go right on your gi. So check that out, CustomBJJPatch.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and see some of the latest jobs that we've done. Okay, so today we have a very special it's not even an interview, but it's a black belt speech. A lot of black belts in jiu-jitsu are required to make a speech. At least that's how it is at Gracie Barra. I don't know how it is at other schools. I know some schools you have to get whipped, but that's not the case at Gracie Barra. At GB, you have to make a speech. And Robert Zeps is the perfect guy that you want to listen to speak. He's very educated, has a lot of good ideas, and he's a very important guy in the jiu-jitsu community. He started Studio 540, which you may have heard down in Solana Beach, California. They have huge seminars with some of the biggest guys. They're really bringing the community together, I feel. And anyway, in his speech, you'll hear him talk about things like why jiu-jitsu flourished in Brazil, why it was good that jiu-jitsu left Japan and went to Brazil. And he has a lot of knowledge to talk about the differences between Brazil and Japan. He studied Japanese martial arts for a long time as well. So anyway, enough introductions. I think you're going to enjoy this speech from Robert Zeps.
It's all about jiu-jitsu, which I love that. So today, Robert Zeps, we're very proud to give a black belt. Come over here. Give me my dogs, hey,
All right. I have some notes because I need to get my mind in order. I apologize for having my back to you. Just keep turning. But not a lot of notes because I'm not going to say a whole ton of things. I need to say, first and foremost, thank you, obviously, my wife, who I'm so pleased could make it, and my children, who are sitting over there. Thank everybody in one go. I'm not going to take individuals because they know who they are. Some people have been really important in my life in the last few years, more than I would ever imagined. And but you know who you are, and I'll thank you separately. I feel a little embarrassed because some people have incredible stories to tell about where they came from and where they went, and what jiu-jitsu did for them. And my story was a little bit perhaps different. Around about 2007, I was a little lost, I suppose. I hadn't worked in a few years, and you know, I was hanging out with old white men and drinking and playing poker and going to Las Vegas. And it was truly a great time. Life was awesome. I hadn't to that date. I hadn't stepped into a hospital one time for any kind of surgery or anything. It was incredible. So we start, and as Nelson said, one of my good friends from poker actually brought me here. And I really did have no idea what I was getting myself into at all. I had no idea. I'd done some Aikido before and some karate before, and even from when I started when I was 17 years old. But when I came to jiu-jitsu, I really wasn't sure what to expect. And I had no idea that when I first went in, the very first person to train with me and teach me and tap me again and again was one of the best in the business. I had no idea. I had no idea about the history. And the fact that he was significantly older than me was a little discouraging. Did you say that? I know.
That was a risky move, Rob. Training today, Mr.
So I have had my fair share of injuries. And I was hoping it wasn't just because I was getting older, but I've had some surgeries. I've had back surgery, neck surgery, knee surgery, retina surgery, and every single time I had a surgery, the doctors who I was seeing, they all told me not to do jiu-jitsu. I mean, and to be honest with you, their advice was probably reasonable and sound. They weren't just saying it, not understanding what it was I was doing. They were looking at me and saying, you're going to hurt yourself a lot. You know, really, something catastrophic possibly could happen to you. And I had to listen to that and understand that that was real. You know, and it's tough for particularly for my wife to watch me, I'm sure, and my kids going into another surgery. You know, so why on earth am I doing this when I have the opportunity to do pretty much whatever I want? And I thought about that question prior to this promotion. I was asking myself, why am I doing this? You know, is it just the friendship? Is it just all of the things that everyone who's received a belt today has expressed so well? That camaraderie that comes with being part of this team. And yes, of course, that's a large part of it. But there's also another part for me. I have a history being in love with science and rational thought, and this really does gel well with a lot of those things. And what I mean by that is there's no place in jiu-jitsu for authority, if that makes any sense. Somebody can tell you they're better than you, they can tell you they have better techniques, they can tell you that you don't know what you're doing, but you always get to test it out, always. And frankly, in 20-something years of training in karate and aikido and other martial arts, that wasn't always the case. Intimidation through authority was a large part of the whole genre of those martial arts, and this is specific to, I like to think, specific to the Japanese culture. I'm not being xenophobic here. I'm saying the Japanese culture is one of authority going down the line, and you toe the line. In Brazil, not so much. I firmly believe that the success of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has a lot to do with a lack of respect for authority, which, if you look at the history of Brazil, is there in spades and continues to this day. But this is a good thing. If somebody kicks sand in your face on the beach and you have to fight, you're fighting because you want to fight. You're not fighting because your sensei told you that today is the day to fight this guy, and you have to understand and try and figure out what that means for you. And if you beat your sensei, what does that mean? Have you just done something terrible? Have you committed the ultimate crime in embarrassing someone in a position of authority? And I think that's the truly democratic thing about Jiu-Jitsu that allows you to do that. I will try my hardest to try to just not to do anything with Master Nelson, to do anything, just not forget tapping, just moving, and one day maybe that will work, right? But ultimately, it's a test. It's a real test. He's not going to let me do that. It's going to happen when it happens. But when he's older and what have you. As Nelson pointed out, I train a lot. Since I started, I didn't have much else to do during the day, so I was training and watching videos and training some more and finding places and I've been very, very fortunate that I've been able to train with some of the best guys on the planet, world champions, literally some of the best people. That we all know the names of these people. And when I go there to train with them, it's really great because the first thing they always want to know from you if they don't know you before is they want to ask that one question of me. They always say, "How is your skin so good?" After I go through my skin regime and the facials that I get, and then they ask me, then they always say to me, and by the way, I know many of you here feel the same way. They ask that question of like, who is your instructor? Who is your instructor? Think about that question for a moment, for all of you. When someone asks you outside of your school, but within Jiu-Jitsu, who is your instructor? And how lucky we all are to not have to figure out what we're going to say after we say their name. When we say Nelson Monteiro is my instructor, when we all say that, you don't have to say anything else. They know immediately. They know the legacy. They know the history. You don't have to go on and explain that he got his black belt from this guy and that guy, and here's why I'm here today. So it's a privilege, but it's also a great responsibility. When you say this person gave you your black belt, you have to take that. I certainly take that as a responsibility. So not just relax and not worry about it anymore. It's a huge burden, actually. Probably in some ways one of the biggest burdens I've had placed on me, other than having children. Truly think about that though. But then you ask yourself the question of why are all the world champions 22 years old, 23 years old? Right? Think about that. Bushesha, think about all those guys. They're children to me. Right? They could be my children. And you say, well, how can someone who's only 22 or 23 years old, how is it possible that he has managed to attain such a level of jiu-jitsu that he could beat all the guys who taught him? How is that possible? Is it just talent? Is it just ability? What is it? And I thought about that too, and this is also what makes jiu-jitsu so great, is that it's an evolution a sport that's happened from the Japanese to Brazil and now into the US, where there's been giants in this sport who have done all that hard work for you, whether it was the Gracie family, whether it was Master Carlos Dehenzo, Master Nelson. All of these people have laid a foundation that every one of us is able to stand on. It's what Isaac Newton said, standing on the shoulders of giants. It's why 22-year-old physicists today can come up with theories that Einstein could never have dreamed of. It's not because they're smarter or brighter, it's because they are standing on that foundation set by all the people whose blood, sweat, and tears went to develop something that we can all just say, oh, I don't have to go through 10 years of development. I can just jump right to here. And yes, there's fundamentals and there's foundational things we must do, and we mustn't forget those things, but we don't have to do the whole process. We're not starting from scratch when we start jiu-jitsu as a new white belt. So when, those of you who are white belts today, just imagine how lucky you are. Really, how lucky you are to not have to go through all the pain and misery that people 20 years ago, 30 years ago went through just to figure out what works and what didn't work. But at the same time, what's crazy about jiu-jitsu is that not everything works for you or me, right? If you're 230, 40 pounds, it's not going to work the same as if you're 100 pounds. So everyone does have their own journey. There is no single journey in jiu-jitsu that's like, this is the path, this is the path. And that's what makes it so exciting, and that's, to finish, that's exactly why I keep doing it. This is my journey, right? I'm doing this journey within the context of everybody here, and it would be completely different if every one of you was different in some way. But it's my journey to go through and see what it is for me. And so, if I'm getting tapped by black belts or really, really tough white belts, it's all the same. It's just a journey for me, and that's why I see this. This is an unbelievable privilege for me, and but I'm going to keep going. It's not something where I just stop now and go do the next thing in my life. This is a continuation. And those of you who know me very well know that jiu-jitsu really is sort of pretty much all I do these days. So on that note, again, I'm privileged and humbled, and it's a great thank you for Master Nelson here.
Hope you enjoyed that black belt speech by Robert Zeps. If you did enjoy it, please like it if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you didn't like it, you can feel free to give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you didn't like. So we're always interested in knowing how we can improve the show. In next week's episode, we have Nelson Monteiro. Nelson is a very important person in the jiu-jitsu community. He's a 6th degree black belt. He's an old school Gracie Barra guy. And he's also the one that introduced the Sheik, who runs ADCC, introduced him to jiu-jitsu. So he's instrumental in helping getting that set up. So we do an interview with Nelson, and also Nelson shows a really cool technique. So stay tuned next week and watch out for that. In the meantime, watch the Worlds live on IBJJFTV.com. And anyway, keep on rolling, guys.